Well, Shaun.
Hi. All right.
Welcome home.
Thank you. Man.
We're so privileged to have you, buddy.
Thank you.
We brought you because this session is on the art of the comeback, and we only want to work with the greatest of all time in different sports. But we also, specifically for you, I told you personally, the way you've dealt with challenge or tragedy, lots of people come great. Can you take those hits and come back? That is a rare commodity. It's even more rare than the rest of the goats, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So we're just privileged to have you. And I just like start out.
Right.
Some people don't realize you were a pro at 7 years old. Is that correct? Or was it 12, 14?
I was sponsored at 7.
Sponsored,
so
that's right.
It was
that's
crazy.
Right.
I mean, I started snowboarding at the local resort. My mom and everybody around the mountains like, he's pretty good. Let's put him in a contest. And I won. I was really fast. And that just kind of like kickstarted this whole thing. And then they didn't make boards my size at that point because I was so small. So my mom called the local, snowboard company she knew, and they put us in touch with Burton Snowboards. Wow. And I was sponsored at 7. So that's when it started. But pro at 13.
Wild?
So yeah.
Give him a hand for that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And you also, you have the most wins of anybody in the X Games history because you have both. You're also a skateboarder. And when did you turn pro? 13 or 14? Or?
That one was a little later. It's actually around 16.
16. Okay.
But I always skated just as hard, just as passionately during the summer off season. And I really feel like that was the thing that kept me interested in snowboarding. Because I would take time away, go skate. My whole world was involved in this. It was in the sunshine and whatnot. And then I kind of missed the mountain. Yeah. And so, at 16, I decided to start professionally skateboarding. And then it was awesome though, because I started I was at the top of the game in snowboarding. And I had to start all the way at the bottom again in skating. And it was like this fun sort of like, it's like watching the first Spider-Man movie. Like it's like, oh, he's learning his powers again. I'm climbing my way up. I just did it over here. And so finally I was winning summer and winter medals. So
that's
great.
Extraordinary. Yeah. Did you enjoy one more than the other?
It was always the one that I wasn't doing at the time. How things go. Yeah.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably surfing the most. I love surfing, but I would never get to do it. Oh. I'm actually named Shaun after Shaun Thompson, professional South African surfer. So my dad loves surfing.
Wow.
Which was a trip today because I'm walking the beach and this little kid runs up to me and he's like, "Are you Shaun White?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, I'm named after you." I was like, "Oh my God!"
Awesome,
yeah.
I told you it was welcome home.
I know. Yeah, I felt it.
That's awesome. So, tell us the psychology of a 7-year-old or a teenager, who's now, sponsored, who's now starts to compete. What was your mindset? Did you decide I want to be the greatest of all time in what I'm doing, and what was your mindset?
I think from the get-go, I believed I could do it. It just seems so real to me. I'd already gotten sponsors. I was already winning competitions and I saw the pros, making a great living at what they were doing. And I just figured like, God, if I could just get to that point, I think I could make a bit of a living out of this. And then things really I don't know, there's all these weird circumstances that came into play, being from Southern California, you wouldn't think, oh, pro snowboarder. Yeah. Everybody thinks I've grown up in Vermont or Colorado, something like that. But no, I actually I hated the cold. I had asthma as a kid. I was born with a heart defect. It's called tetralogy of Fallot. So I had to have multiple surgeries to correct. It's what's called a blue baby. You're not getting enough oxygen in your bloodstream. And so from the get-go, I was supposed to be a very inactive, sluggish child. And, my parents really never set those boundaries on me. So, of course, I was like, I want to do that. Yeah.
And along the way, who's been most influential on your career and why?
Probably my brother. My older brother, Jesse. He's 7 years older, actually half brother. My mom had him in Hawaii and then moved back to the mainland and met my father and had my sister and myself. But he was just the guy that was always doing the new trick or wearing the new cool clothing. And we were such an age gap that I just wanted him to like me so badly. And he wanted nothing to do with me. I was that awful, redheaded.
So did you get great did you get great to get his attention?
Oh, well, I could never beat him at anything. It was ping pong, Monopoly, nothing. He owned it. And then finally, I chipped away at him and finally became better. But I think that's a lot of my competitiveness came from that.
Really?
And then.
What was the first thing you beat him at that you hadn't before? And what did you feel that day and how did you react?
I finally beat him in ping pong. and it was glorious. It was incredible. I just kind of, but I didn't celebrate it. It was just internal. I was just like,
that was smart. You might have got beat up a little bit.
I didn't want to put it because he's still the older brother, so I gave him that. But it was that, and then I started, winning the snowboard contests, and that's when it really kind of he realized that I was on a different path than him.
And is he still is he proud of you? Are you connected today?
Yeah, what's amazing is we worked together for years.
Really?
He was always this very creative guy, and so he was always doing, illustrations and went to school to study art, things like that. And he would do all the graphics for my snowboards, for my skateboards. He would help me design signature products for the sponsors I rode for, and we had this really great thing going for a long, long time. And then I think it was just before Sochi, probably the Olympics in Sochi, that we kind of parted ways, working together. Yeah. But then we reconnected actually after Sochi in a really wonderful way. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What did he say to you after that? Because that had been one of the toughest times in your career, right? Coming out of Sochi, because Sochi is where the first time we all thought you were going to win the third one.
Yeah.
All these big expectations, which had to be enormous pressure on you.
Oh yeah.
And then they walk away with no, everyone wants you to win the gold. None.
Yeah.
Tell us what that was like, and I'm curious about how your brother responded in any way, if he was able to support you.
It was tough. It was at that moment that we weren't really, he was off doing his life and I'm doing my life, and then this kind of crazy thing happened. Like I had never been to the Olympics and lost before. And so I'm like, wow, okay, this is what that's like. And you think like, oh, you'll just get past it. And you don't, honestly, people still ask me about it. And they're like, so when did you get over it? I'm like, no, I never got over it. It's like the scar you have from falling off your bike as a kid. Like it's just a part of you now. And you'll never do that again, one of those things. But I remember him coming up to me, and he was just, he just felt for me. He was just really there to be my brother, not to be a business partner, not to be anything but just like my brother, which was really great.
That's beautiful.
Actually a lot of soul searching happened after that Olympics for me. At the top of the half pipe, it wasn't that I wasn't physically strong enough to win. I just wasn't there mentally. Yeah. Which is, I wish it was physical. It's way easier to go do a bunch of sit-ups and like go ride, hit the elliptical. Yeah. But like getting your head right is way harder. And so I remember.
Help us out. Tell us, what was your head like going into it? It was off going into it then a little bit.
There was a lot of, looking back in hindsight, there was a lot of things that were off. But when you're so in it, it's hard to see at that time. And that's what was amazing, is afterward, I got to sit there and go, well, man, if I did it again, I would do this differently, that differently. But at the time, going for Sochi, I just remember I had won the first Olympics, and I thought that, it was going to change my life. And it did in many ways, but in other ways, it wasn't exactly what I had pictured.
What did you think it would do?
Just solve every problem I ever had. Honestly, I was that up and coming snowboarder, and I finally, I did it. I won the gold medal. And I'm jumping around, but at that Olympics, I was 19, and I'd always wanted a certain amount of credibility and respect, especially in a sport like snowboarding that was still new. Yeah.
You actually, I'm not blowing smoke your way, but you gave credibility to that sport, right?
You.
You were the first icon of that sport.
Yeah,
and you're still the biggest.
Well, it was tough at the time because when I started snowboarding, there was no Olympics. X Games had just started, and it was like a very odd sort of sport. And so even the school I attended, they said they wouldn't help me with extra, schooling or anything because they didn't find my sport legitimate.
Wow.
They're like, you're not horseback riding, tennis, we don't have a category for you. Yeah. So I ended up going to this outreach program for pregnant teens, kids that couldn't function in normal school settings, these things. Wow. So that I could get my schooling done. So
they'd be flexible enough.
Well, yeah. And I just remember being with a snowboarder that got his GED and he regretted it. And I remember hearing that and being like, I'm not going to do what he did. I'm going to finish school and I'm going to, I don't know. I was always kind of after Tony Hawk was my friend. I was just kind of like a sponge to the people that were around me. Yeah. And I remember hearing that from a fellow writer, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do what he did. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to do this and that. But it was always a challenge to get to that point. Yeah. And I could be sitting next to anybody on the plane in first class or whatever, and be like, I won the X Games 20 times. And they're like, oh, that's cool. That's great for you, But when you're like, I got an Olympic gold medal, they're like, oh, okay, I understand that. And so maybe it didn't mean as much to me to win the gold medal, but it meant it to the world. And I needed that sort of kind of, feedback. I needed that sort of redemption from what was going on at the time, because it was a struggle the whole way.
Yeah.
And then so the second Olympics was just the cemented in. Like, it wasn't a fluke that I won the first time. I'm going to be the best
again. Can I ask you back on the first one for a second? Yeah. Tell us the difference going into that first one versus second versus third.
Oh, God. So the first one was just to be like, I made it. The family.
Did you feel certain that you'd win the gold? Did you have that internally within you before you got there?
Yeah, I was positive. I was like pretty gung-ho.
That's awesome.
Plus, they have 5 qualifying events that lead up to it. And I aced the whole thing. Okay. I won all 5 events. I actually won every single competition I entered that year. Not only half pipe, but slope style, rail. They're like these rail feature competitions. But it's a great story because the year before, I got completely destroyed.
Oh, you did?
They beat me I'd even make podium at X Games. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was this wild scenario where I was trying to win, and I had this breakout year when I was 15. I finally won a competition or 2, and I got 2 silver medals at X Games, and I was like, right here, right now, right when they put this silver medal on me, I'm like, I'm coming back next year, and I'm gonna win the double gold.
That's awesome.
And I finally came back. I won 2 gold medals. My dreams are coming true. I finally I'm getting these deals. All these things are happening. Next year, I'm on my way. I just won the slopestyle competition. I'm heading to my second double gold, just won qualifying, and then my knee goes out in qualifying. I'd never been injured before. I was 17. 15, 16, won the double gold. 17, the knee goes out, and I'd never been injured. They're like, you need to get surgery. No, you don't need to get surgery. I'd never been to a gym in my life.
Wow.
So I'm like, what do I do? And, I got through that. And so 18, I show back up. I'm like, I'm going to reclaim my throne and just walk right into it. And the sport had changed. The guys left me behind, and I got 4th place. And I'm so happy that happened because it gave me that push I'm like, no, I tasted the win and the glory and the whole deal. And it's too soon to just fade away. Yes. I'm coming back. And then that pushed me to do this undefeated season.
And what did you in your head decide how you're going to beat these guys how did the sport change? You said the sport changed and you're going to come back and do it.
Yeah.
What had shifted, and what did you do to shift yourself to make that comeback? Because I'm only aware of the big comeback, but this is just as big a comeback at that stage of your life.
Well, because of the injury, it taught me how to take care of myself.
Oh,
because I was just like, oh, cool, let's eat pizza, do whatever. I'm taking the chairlift. We're going downhill. It's not as, athletic. But I started hitting the gym every single day, and to rehab, I come out of surgery and I had no idea my leg had disappeared.
Wow.
From the atrophy of surgery, all these things. And so I had to build my strength back up. All those things amounted into me coming back to win eventually. So those are a lot of things that came into play to get me there.
That you wouldn't have done otherwise.
No,
so
never.
We have a phrase that life's always happening for us, not to us. And it's our job to figure out where that benefit is, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing ups and downs that kind of put me in these types of situations. And I think I could safely say that through my career, every great moment of mine has been followed by one of the worst, or just before it, I'd had a really, really terrible upset in my life.
Did you see that pattern before Sochi, or did you become aware of it after Sochi?
I think I became aware after Sochi.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I had to sit with myself and kind of figure it all out and go, wow, well, what's the deal? And I'd been so gung-ho this whole time, I just got to win another Olympics. I just got to win another time. And I don't know. I remember just sitting there and I'm like, I'm not going to win. This is awful. I was trapped in my own head watching a movie of myself losing, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Wow.
And so afterwards, I'm like, well, I guess you got what you were projecting, because
exactly.
Last time I'm like, I'm going to win. I had AC/DC playing. I had all these jacked up
brother.
songs. Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna win this thing. And then this time it was if you go later, it's called the Cults is the band, and it's called Always Forever. It's the slowest, saddest song, and I was listening to it every day before the Olympics. The first one was Paradise City, Guns N' Roses. Second was, I think, Back in Black, AC/DC. and then this slow, sad song. And it's just funny because at the time I didn't think about it. You know, I'm just like, oh, this is where I'm at. And a lot of crazy things had happened at that point. So the win to just kind of make it, then the second win was to solidify who I am, and then it was like, do it again.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that like oomph I needed.
So what you had prided yourself on this incredible drive that you built. Your brother was a part of that drive.
Yeah.
Where do you think the drive came from, and what do you think made it go away in that time period?
You know, I think life just gave me other interests, you know. And
you've been doing it for so many years?
Yeah, it's tough, you know, and I started looking at it, and I remember watching certain athletes that I had heard of and watching their competitions and things, and you could just tell when someone's got the fire and they don't.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to make yourself want to do that. Like you can't just like wake up and like, it's like, oh, I'm going to love this person. No, you got to feel it inside. And so I remember going through the motions, and I'm just thinking like, God, I'm really good at this sport. If I just like go pound myself into the ground, I could just like coast through and win. Honestly, I was like, you know what? I got the tricks. I could just do it. And it was at a time where I bit off even more than I could chew at that point, at a time when I also...
Meaning in distractions outside of the sport? Or?
All of it, and within the sport too, because the Olympics now took on half pipe and slopestyle. So I was like, I'm going to win both of these. Right. And I was like I'd always dreamt of like playing guitar in a band. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to give that dream up just because snowboarding. And so my interests were kind of like falling all over. I was trying to learn Spanish at the time. Like I'm very goal oriented. So I had all these random goals, and it just kind of finally was weighing on me. And then social media happened. Yes. I feel like it's a difference between hearing about a party you missed and then just having like this feed, this revolving feed that just shows what your friends are doing, and your mom's doing this, and the kid you knew on the street is this tall now, and like you just see life passing you by.
And you're still in the training mode.
Yeah. It's like that interstellar moment when he sees the whole life flash before his eyes. It's like one of those things, and I'm up in the mountains, and think about, it's cold. I'm from the beach. I'm already unmotivated slightly, and now ask me to do something that's like very dangerous. And out of my comfort level. So the window of opportunity to actually accomplish that just was like very, very small.
So how did you turn that back around? Because, we should talk about two different pieces. Let's talk about the accident for a moment, if we could. In New Zealand. New Zealand. Right. Unbelievable accident. I think we have some footage of it. Tell us, it was the worst accident of your career. You couldn't recognize yourself. I guess it affected your eyesight and so forth. I mean, what the hell, when you came out of that situation, you can't even recognize yourself. Tell us what goes through your head, because this happened 4.5 months before Sochi, is that right?
Yeah, that was just before. I only laughed because I had just joined Beats headphones, and they were like, we need a post. Everybody's posting today. We got Serena, LeBron, all these people. I'm like, all right, you want the post? This is where I'm at. Like, here you go. Like, but it was heavy. It's one of those things where So, to pull it back slightly, I had like found that new love for the sport, and I like built a new team around myself.
And how did you do that? Tell us that.
Oh, I mean, I literally like went through every single piece of my life and kind of picked it apart. So I was like, oh, social media is bumming me out. I want to go do this and have a better like portrayal of my life and what it's all about. Because at the time, like I was having all these weird sponsor posts, and my fans were in the comments not very happy about it. And, all the way to like, I'd never really dedicated myself to the sport in a way, like, why work out if you can win without working out? So I was like, you know what? I should be kind to myself. If it's this easy for me now, I should like really give it my all. And so I got a trainer, I got a physical therapist, I changed my business manager, I changed my agency I worked with. I reconnected with my family in a big way. Like my brother I talked about was such a huge part of my life, then all of a sudden wasn't. And so I reconnected with him, my sister, and I made it fun to be on the mountain. Wow. Normally I would go up there and I'm out. Like I had this bad rep with all the other snowboarders because I would do my thing and I would leave immediately because you're in a bubble of a mountain town. I can't go out and eat. It's not, and I just, no privacy. I just dip, and so, and my life's back home. And so, I made it fun to be on the mountain again. I like found that excitement, and I had a younger rider with me.
Yes.
So every single thing to him is new.
Oh, that's cool.
I've been to Japan plenty of times, but I'm like, hey, check this out. the vending machines, they like heat your coffee up. You know what I mean? He's like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? Like, look, we're in Austria. Check it out. We'll have a schnitzel. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, this is incredible, you know, and you're kind of like reliving it through him. And then another story I could tell you about, which is really great, but the coach that I actually brought along the road with me, he beat me when I was 15 by 0.3 of a point going to the 2002 Olympics.
Really?
He's the last guy to drop in. I'm in first place. He comes down and beats me by 0.3 of a point.
Wow.
So thankful that happened. He catapulted me all the way to that point when I was 16 to win.
Wow.
Before the knee injury got me to the Olympic win.
Yeah.
And then Sochi eventually got me to this win. So
when the accident happened, that you were in a great mindset. So was it just a misadjustment? What happened, and then how did you recover from that?
So that was the tough part. I just like found the new love, and I'm going to do this, and then like. Having the best day ever. They're playing like all this classic rock at the half pipe, which is a rarity. They love just pumping this crazy techno stuff. And so I'm like, oh, it's the classic rock day. And I'm riding. Things are going amazing. The other competitors there, and I'm just like landing my hardest tricks in their face. I'm feeling it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best feeling. Acting very nonchalant about it.
Of course.
And then I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this combination that I want to do. And I got to the top of the pipe, and I went for it on this one wall that was just I had no business doing it there. I just wanted it so badly, and I thought if I just gave it enough, it would work, and it just didn't. I hit the top of the wall, which is the wall itself is 22 feet tall. So I was out a good 20-something feet. I clipped the top of the deck.
How far are you above the wall when you
above the wall, a good like 20, 23 feet out.
So it's like 45 feet.
Yeah, so we're going,
wow.
and it's downhill, full on, you know, kind of icy wall, because that wall doesn't get the sun at that time of day. So I clipped the top of the deck of the half pipe, and what happened is my back just gets bent over the coping of the railing there, and then I fly to the bottom, and I catch my toes, and I hit my face, and then, you know, I'm just like, my eyes are full of snow, there's wet blood everywhere, and I'm just thinking like, oh my God, what happened? It was so quick. And that was the hardest, because now I'm at the hospital. You know, next thing you know, I'm having the best day. I'm in the hospital, and my face is like hanging apart, and they're like, you know what, we're going to get you into surgery any minute, so just like, we won't stitch you up now. You know, normally they'll just kind of patch you a little before the big surgery. That got pushed and pushed and pushed till like 11 at night, and they're like, we got to do it tomorrow. So I'm sitting there with this like wet cloth on my face thinking, what happened? Like, is this really worth it? Do I really want this? And that was the big challenge there. It was like, I've been telling myself I'm into this, but do I really want to get back up? Because getting back out on the snow doesn't necessarily mean this is going to happen again, but I'm taking a chance, and I'm prepared to let this happen to myself again. You know what I mean?
So your mindset was, I have to be willing to know this could happen again.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I can't get my all.
Exactly.
So this is one of the things we talk about. We always talk to people about, you got to write down everything you wouldn't want to have happen to achieve what you want. And if you look at every one of those and say, I'm willing to do that, you don't usually have to.
Yeah.
But then there's no holdback in you.
Exactly. It's like, here's what we're dealing with, and like,
That's right.
And I made the very simple but valuable lesson of like what not to do. And I'm like, I'm not going to ever do that again. I'm going to wait till the pipe's great. I'm going to wait till it happens. And so I waited and I waited and I waited all the way to the Olympics. I didn't even do that run that I did at the Olympics until I got there.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It wasn't right. I wasn't going to mistake. And
so that move that you made it was the final third run when you made the
third run. Yeah, it was the second hit.
Yeah,
was the trick, and
that was the one you got injured on previously.
Yeah, I had done like 2 to get over the scare of it in Colorado, and then I got to. The big idea was to do the combination of the 14 into the other 14, and that was the one that put me in the hospital. And I was terrified to do it on its own, let alone doing a giant trick into it, because it's all connected. And so I just knew that if you got me to the Olympics and I'm standing there at the top, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Like, you can't not do it. So I was sitting there, I'm like, my coach is just like, you're okay, like, we can wait, and it's like this bad dream I had. I'm like running around trying to find good conditions to do the trick. And like, this half pipe, they didn't get enough snow, so it was kind of like wonky conditions. And then this one, the storm came, and I'm just freaking out. Like, when am I gonna do this trick? But in my heart, I knew if I got there and I had the pressure, I was gonna do it. So the first time I ever tried the combination was in the second run.
Wow.
And so by the third run, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this, because I got that first chance.
Because the second run didn't go well.
Yeah, it didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
Partially because I deep down think I didn't, I wanted to do it really badly.
There wasn't a have to
I didn't have to do it yet.
Yes.
So that third run came through, and it was a must, and so it all happened.
Tell me before we come to that third run, go back one. Tell us about the 100. Scoring 100. I mean, that's
yeah, that was nuts.
What did that mean to you, and how'd that come about?
Yeah.
What made that possible?
It was a similar scenario, which is wild. I show up to the half pipe, and I mentioned the younger rider, right?
Yeah.
His name's Toby. He's really excited to ride every morning, so he's like, practice starts at this time. I don't do that. I show up maybe a couple minutes, probably like 20 minutes before. I need like 2 runs, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Because Toby will learn later on that when you show up and you do the run perfect 10 times, your odds of doing it perfect in the contest go down. But I'm like, okay, I'll go with you. Classic over-practiced. I'm tired at this point. And the first run, I saw everybody fall, and I get really excited when that happens. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to bury them, and I'm going to finish them, like they're down, just step on them, And so it's like, sorry to give you the real insight.
Thank God for your brother.
Yeah, totally, yeah. It's years of, I get overamped, and I go way too big, and my legs were tired. I couldn't hold on to the G's, the force of the half pipe. And so that didn't go well. Second run was beautiful. It's just I got to the bottom, and I had pulled off the wall too far, and the light throughout the day, the sun's traveling over, and by the time I got my run, it had moved. This wall's in the shade now. I couldn't see the landing. Yeah. Super frustrated. Now I'm sitting there going, okay, this is the second to last Olympic qualifying event. Like, I need to podium on this one. I need to make the team. There's commercials running of me being the Olympic hopeful, and I haven't even made the team yet.
Wow.
So I'm freaking out. I'm on the chairlift thinking, God, how am I going to do this? And I'm just kind of venting this stuff to my coach, JJ, at this point. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm over it. Let's just go to whatever. And knowing that he's going to give me back the, oh, your outfit's cool. Waiting for the, no, your outfit's cool. I'm just waiting for him to hand it back to me, And so he gets me excited again. I get to the top of the pipe. He's like, just play it safe, man. We just need to get the podium. We'll get on the team. We'll finish it in Korea. Got to the top of the pipe. Everybody's putting these amazing runs down out of nowhere. They're all crushing it. And they look at me, and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm standing there at the top. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought we were going to play it safe. They're like, well, you might need to win this thing right now. I'm like, oh, my God. They're like, do the hard run. Why are we holding back right now? I've been so
Great
good
question.
at trying these hard tricks all day, and the goal was to just play it safe and make the team. And then right when they're like, just win the thing, I'm like, yes, that's what
awesome.
I do.
It's the Rocky moment.
Yeah, I'm like, why are we trying to settle? Like, why don't we just do what we came here to do? And so I kind of gave him the look, and I dropped in, and I crushed this run. And not only did I win the event, and then I locked up my spot on the team for the U.S., and then I got a perfect 100 score, which was insane.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So that was like the real comeback story from the injury, you know, just to come back and to win that thing. And people were talking about it. The last run, I had to do it, and I did it. And for me at that moment, that was like that gratifying sort of moment where I realized the rest is just kind of bonus.
And if we had I wrote it down. I think there was 23 million people tuned in to watch you. It's the most in history for that sport for you. But tell people, you had the Japanese man who took the lead, right?
Yeah.
Just give them the context so not everybody saw it, if you would.
Yeah, so I'm standing there. I put in this amazing first run, and I'm thinking like, I went so big on the first hit, and it's all about the amplitude, how high out you go. The judges love it, and I went bigger than I think I've ever gone before. And I get to the bottom, and I like threw my helmet. I just like wanted to get the stuff off my face, and I threw my helmet. And as I'm watching it sail, I'm like, that's my only helmet. It's like flying. I'm like, I look at the camera guy, but I need that back. And and I'm so excited because I think I just won. Yeah. Honestly, every single time I've been to the Olympics, I'd won with the first run. And then I got what's called a victory lap. Everybody goes, you're standing at the top, and no one beats your score. So everybody was doing all right runs. And I'm thinking this might just be enough because that's the one that got me 100 at the last competition. Yes. So I think I might have just won this thing. I'm not going to celebrate too soon. You never know. And so I get my helmet back. I actually borrowed a pair of goggles from someone in the crowd because mine was all snowy. It's ridiculous sounding.
That's pretty awesome.
Didn't practice the run. I had my goggles.
That person's got a great story.
Yeah, totally. He was like, me? Yes, for America. Here.
For America.
Take these. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I get to the top, and the second run's going through, and Ayumu, the Japanese snowboarder, puts down this amazing, incredible run. Bumps my score by like a point or two. And I'm thinking, God, okay, I really would have loved to have coasted in with my medal. And
story compared to the real one, right?
I totally. And I was like on the fence of what run to do. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking like, all right, well, it's very clear what I have to do. And I'd never done that combination before. So I'm a little, timid inside. And I'm just thinking, okay, cool.
And you're realizing this is probably the last run of your career? Was that your mindset? Was this going to be your last Olympics, or?
This isn't. I don't think. I mean, that's
awesome.
kind of happened after. Honestly, yeah. Afterward, I was like feeling. I get to that, but like it really just found that love.
But when
even
you were
more.
going in, you weren't thinking this is necessarily your last run per se. Then
no. Well,
that's how they framed it on television.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sure. They
go, this is it. His last run of his entire career, and he's the guy who's been number one. He's number two.
Yeah. So I don't know. I remember the second run obviously just didn't go to plan. I had the nerves, and then that third run, I'm like, okay. And normally I have like a system of dropping in. Like I wait for the third guy in front of me to go, then the second, and then it's my turn. And I made a statement in qualifying. I don't know if you saw qualifying was like a full battle just to win that spot, because if you win qualifying, you get to drop in last and you get the last say. And I had dreamt every night of being in this position.
That's awesome.
Every single moment, I'm like, I just got to get there. I got to win the qualifying, and you're going to put me in the start gate. And this is what's going to happen. And so I had to make that all kind of like come to reality. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking like, this is my moment. And everybody was kind of asking me, they're like, I saw your eyes through your goggles and what was happening. And I swear it was like, I don't know if you guys seen, I describe things in movies because I just love movies, but seen Bagger Vance?
Yes.
It's that perfect shot. I'm just sitting there. I could see it. I could see the whole run.
Wow.
I looked at the flag at the side of the pipe that marks if it's windy or not. The thing's not moving at all. I'm like, there's no wind. The snow stopped. Maybe a little sunshine. I recognized the song that was playing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was like this hip hop song. His name's Post Malone. He's like this, I think his song was Rockstar, but JJ and those guys had been pumping it in the car all the time. So I was like, I know this song. And I was like, I'm gonna win this thing. This is my moment. I should take like kind of like this screen grab in my mind that Tony Hawk, take the moment to like savor it. And
you did.
And I did. And I honestly at that point kind of went on an autopilot. Like I just dropped in
took over.
And I gave it that oomph in the beginning. And JJ and them know me. They just gave me like a simple everyday high five.
Yeah.
You know what to do. Because at that point, you're your own worst enemy. If you let the nerves get to you and all those things, I'm like, it's the same two walls, same thing I've been doing since I was a kid. And that's how you got to approach it. It's sort of this like complete focus with a slight bit of not caring. And I dropped in, and I remember that the first hit, really, like I said, it's connected. The first hit sets the tone for the whole run. So I just started with this huge hit, went big, and I knew if I landed that solid, that was the best chance I was going to have of completing the combination 14 to 14. And then once the second 14 hit, I'm like, okay, now you get that second wind of like the fire's building. I'm like, okay, I just got to finish it. And so I get through the 540, the double McTwist 1260, which was like a big deal at the Vancouver Olympics. I created this.
You were the first one to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, this is my trick. I'm going to land this one, of course. And then it was that last hit. And the last hit is the last hit. Like, it's the worst, because you can cheat by thinking one wall ahead, but on the last hit's the last hit. So I go up and I'm just like, please, and I remember making a mental map of the run before where I had come up and you see these blue lines on the half pipe. And I remember the blue line being like really in my face. So I gave it a little extra on this run. And I was expecting to see that little blue line, and I was a good like 5-6 feet above it. And so I like casually landed, and I was like, that was just such a great way to start it with this huge hammer and to finish perfect. It was just great.
I've watched you for years. I'm a big fan. I've never seen you cry before.
Oh,
you
man.
bawled at the end of that thing. What did it mean to you?
God, it just meant the world to me. Honestly, it's like the moment since Sochi happened, I was just like, why? Why couldn't you have just like dug deep and then like sailed into the sunset? You know what I mean? Like, is this the thing on your record that's going to be like, well, he's been to the Olympics 4 times. He's won twice. And I knew I could win. I was all these things going on. The injury. I mean, my mom had called me. She's like, you're done. Please stop. Like, it's over. Like, you've made a great living off the sport. You've got gold medals. People, respect and love you. What's the deal? And I'm like, I just know I can do it. I know I can do it. I know what I want and how to get it. And so right when they hit me with the score and I'd won, I just like lost it, and the whole family's there. And I think it's so heavy when the family's there because they know they know the inner workings of everything.
They know everything. You've been this whole journey.
Yeah, the whole time, like the first day one after Sochi at the couch, just like miserable. You know what I mean? Like those moments and the like the ups and downs and like missing their birthdays and things to go to the gym or to be here, like every single thing, like what you eat, how you sleep, everything feeds into this moment, which is crazy. This one moment in time, which is like a couple hours.
Yeah, but you executed.
Yeah, for sure. So I just broke down because it meant the world to me, and the comeback from that, it just meant that I took the right steps and I gave it the right amount of time, and I don't know. I always think it's like the little things that can push it over the edge.
Yeah.
So like I watch some of my competitors, like they'll get second place and like go party and celebrate, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit the gym.
Good for you.
What if it's like that little extra thing? I did a couple more sit-ups more, and that was the extra tuck that got me into the flip. Like, I don't know. I think it's like,
that makes the difference.
How is it like any little thing I can do to like separate myself from them? And like, look, like I won and I'm hitting the gym. They got second and they're like going, you know what I mean? It's all these things. And so awesome. I always try to like think of ways to really kind of go that extra mile.
What do you think makes a champion? And if you had to coach someone who's going through a rough time that's been, incredibly successful, and then they took the crash, because most people do, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't recover from the crash.
Of course.
And I don't just mean a physical crash. Sometimes it's financial and business or emotional relationship.
Of course.
What do you think makes somebody a champion? What's helped to make you a champion? Yeah. And then what does it take to come back after that? What would you coach somebody on if you were coaching somebody who'd been through a tough time?
I mean, only through my own experiences is that like Sochi obviously was one of the biggest upsets in my career, in my life. And I'm sitting there and like, once the tears and everything had dried up, I was like, I'm going to turn this into the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
He made the decision.
I was like, I'm going to let this moment define, like these other times in my life that I ripped through my past. I'm like, man, I didn't actually win that until I lost before. And you know what? After this,
you noticed
the heart condition, and now I'm a sports star or whatever. You know what I mean? Like all these things in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to make this the greatest thing that's happened. And so I really got right with myself, which I didn't, you lift weights to build muscles. You eat this food to feel this way, but to like get your mind right was something I never really approached. I had a bunch of different books I was reading things, and it really, really helped get me on that right path. But I made that decision, and I think for people to realize and understand is it's all up to you. Especially like when I go to a competition and I lose, I'm stoked. I'm like, great, if I show up and win, I'm like, okay, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm right on the track that I'm going. If I lose, I got this perfect crystal picture of where I need to be.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so if you approach it that way, you can never really lose. You know, there's no mistakes if you learn from them. And so I kind of like go through it. And so that's why all that kind of like soul searching and stuff happened after Sochi to bring me back. But you got to really clearly define what you want. And the things that kind of like brought you to this path to like I mentioned this cut on my face, like I'm never going to do that again. And I waited till the pristine time to do it. And so it's like actually learning from those mistakes, not just kind of like saying, I learned, I won't do that again, but really learning from that mistake.
That makes so much sense.
And going forward, because it's a part of you now. But yeah, that's kind of like it's making that choice, I'd say.
And so we've talked this week about when people want to make a change, the most important thing is to make that decision. We just had this conversation yesterday. The decision of what it's going to mean to you, not letting the world define what it means. You decide what it's going to mean. You decide it's great. But then its second step for us is conditioning ourselves so that we execute. And then the third is putting a system in place so that you can do what you did, which is finally let go and let your unconscious take over, right? And make the thing happen once you're there.
Totally.
That's wild.
And so, you mentioned the next Olympics and things like that. I'm like, God, I don't even listen to the stuff on the television because it's all what I feel inside. Like if I feel I got it in me, then I got it in me. And it's kind of like, I know the feeling of Sochi, trying to like kick the dead horse and get myself to this point, and it just didn't work. But if I feel it inside now, I can go do it. So literally I'm driving to get my medal, and I texted this incredible woman, Molly, who works for me. And I said, hey, when is the qualifying for the skateboarding Olympics?
How else is that? Oh, skateboarding Olympics.
Skateboarding 2020 in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would love to be the first sort of, the motivation would be there because it's totally different.
New,
warm weather, all this, it's just a different setup. I think if you put me back out on the snow again right now and made me go for the next Olympics, it'd be a really tough sort of journey to get there. But I'm excited in the fact that I mentioned the second snowboarding Olympics or the next in 2022 in China, because after I'm done skating, I'm gonna hate skating. I'm gonna want to go snowboard. And like sitting right here, right now, you couldn't drag me to the mountain.
Yes.
But after 2 whole years of skateboarding, like I'm gonna be ready to go back, and I'm gonna have this fire that those other competitors won't. Yeah. Because they've been in the same thing every day, trying to find that passion to keep them going. And it's tough. We're all people, it's all, if you're eating the same cereal every day, you get sick of it. And so I think that might be the nice compliment in my life that would actually bring me back to the next Winter Olympics. So
that's exciting.
So I'm positioning it. Yeah, thanks. So keep an eye out.
We are going to be there with you.
Yeah, please.